Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk. I'm Tracy Morgan. So nice to have you with us. Always, always, always. We are here for 30 minutes. Of course, this is our time that we get to chat. And today is our day with Lisa Gard, the owner of Specialized Staffing, which of course is based right here in Butler, but goes far beyond getting you jobs, but you're not technically the client. We always like to explain that, and I'll let Lisa do that here in just a second. But before we welcome Lisa to the show, of course, you have us on the radio. Thank you for listening to that. You have us on the app. Thank you for listening to that. You have us online. All right, just the general thank you will do. And then that's WISR680.com, by the way. And then you have us on Alexa-powered devices. So you would simply say, Alexa, play WISR 680. That should be enough, and we'll come up right there for you. All right, so that's how that's going to work. This is our podcast of the day. You go online, and then you hit Programs, Let's Talk, Specialized Staffing. Simple and easy. All right, Lisa, how are you doing? It's always nice to see you.
Doing great, Tracy. Always good to be here.
Yeah, get us a new job. I love my job. It's funny when I talk to you, I feel like I'm getting a new job. But Lisa, do explain before we get into our topic today, which is how to be productive while working remotely or working at home. Mm-hmm. Before we get into that, explain why I had mentioned a minute ago on how if I am coming to you to try to get a new job, I'm not your client.
Sure. So we work two different sides of the employment, activity. The client is the company who calls us and says, "Hey, we have an opening that we need filled," and the applicants come in. We interview people all the time who are working and looking for new jobs or who aren't working and looking for a job. We're constantly interviewing people. And when a client calls and is looking for something specific, we go to that pool of people and, we find the people who best fit the position. Additionally, we go out and we conduct searches for individuals. When a client calls us with a need that's so specific that we may not have those exact people already interviewed, we'll go out and we'll conduct a search. So essentially, candidates are not necessarily clients, but we still treat you like a client because without you, we're not going to be successful. So you as a candidate benefit because you don't have to pay a fee.
And that is always nice. So we can come to you, seek out what we need, or just have a conversation with you or one of your representatives to see if it is a good fit.
Yes.
And go from there. There are companies that allow people to work from home.
Yes.
There are employers or employees that want to work from home, and why is that a good thing for an employee?
Sure.
To be able to work from home, if they can get that.
Sure. Well, there are several benefits to the employee. Work-life balance is one. You don't have the commute anymore, so it shortens that time for preparing and getting to work. But, there are some challenges related to it as well if you're the employee, and I thought it would be great to talk about those things because there are two types of people. There are people who can work from home and be more productive because they have less interruptions. But there are people who work from home that will readily say, I'm so distracted. So I think it's important to talk about how to be productive working from home or working remotely.
Now, is this something that we can negotiate at the beginning of the process of getting a new job, or do we have to feel out the company first on whether they allow this or not?
Sure, both. So a lot of companies are now offering working from home. And so that's something you can look into up front if that's something they do. It's also something you can negotiate if your job is conducive to working remotely. Obviously, if it's face-to-face customer service and you have to physically be there, that's not going to be possible. But a lot of the types of jobs now with technology, it's possible to work from home.
All right, so let's talk about whether we want to call them challenges or just the checklist that we need in order to be able to do something at home or remotely. And let me ask you this first. When you say remotely, can this be a job that a company says you're working from home, or is this like flex time, like you can work 3 days in the office and 2 days at home?
And both things happen pretty frequently. So, working remotely can be working from anywhere. You know, I work from home a lot, but a lot of times I'm working out of my car. My clients never know where I am when they're talking to me on the phone because I work remotely. Technology allows me to do that. So I say working remotely, but working from home, you know, basically the same thing.
Yeah. All right. So, what's the very first thing that if we're going to work remotely, but from home specifically, what is it that we need?
Have an office. I say have an office. And when I say have an office, I realize not everybody has a spare room in their home, but you need to make sure you designate a place that is specifically for work during the time you're working. You know, some people can sit at their kitchen table and work, and that's great. But if you've got kids running around and dogs running around and spouses home, and it's very distracting. I have a desk in a separate area of my house that has all of my office stuff, has my printer, my computer, my, you know, all of the things I need for work and nothing else. And when I'm at that space, I'm working. So you want to make sure that space is designated as a place that is your office, that it's organized, and that it's away from distractions.
And how can disorganization just distract us? Because when you say organized, I think, oh, you don't want to see my office at home.
Yeah, right. And for me, I suffer from ADD. I will admit I do. So I can be sitting at my desk, and if out of the corner of my eye I catch a sock on the living room floor, you know, I'll jump up and I'll take care of that. So when I say make sure it's organized, you know, just for your individual work style, make sure it's organized enough for you. Everything for me, everything has to be in its place. So,
well, and I'm like you. So, you know, I do have a little office at home and a little small room studio, but everything, like I can shut the door.
Yes.
And then it's like the outside world is the outside
Yes.
world, you know, and when I'm in there, I have the equipment, what I need just for my job.
It's like you're sitting here in the studio.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I understand that. All right. So then tell me about managing time, because for what I do at home, I can manage that well. But there are times when I am at home that I am doing the laundry, and then I have to get dinner, and then all of a sudden my kids need something, and then all of a sudden I think I should have completed my work 2 hours ago.
Right. Absolutely. So I use a calendar to schedule my time, and I recommend if you're working from home, you schedule your time on your calendar. You know, use your tool. I use Microsoft Office, and I use the calendar in Outlook, and I schedule my time the day before, so I know what I'm going to do. If I have phone interviews, if I have phone conferences, if I'm going to be working on a project, I calendar that. I put that on my calendar so that I know at 8:40 I have my morning meeting, and that's on my calendar every day. And I know that at 9 o'clock I'm going to be working on researching information for my next radio show. That's on my calendar that day. At 10 o'clock I have an appointment, a phone conference with a client. I have that on my calendar. I even put on my calendar when I'm going to take a break to go run, because I work out and I run at lunchtime. So I will put right at lunchtime, you know, run 3 miles. And I just calendar that time. And for me, I look at that the night before, and I know that in order to be at my morning meeting at 8:40, I need to be up by 7:30 and have my coffee and, you know, be at my desk and be ready. So I highly recommend calendaring your time.
And for those people who do get distracted because you don't have the individuals next to you in the office kind of keeping you in pace, there is so much technology right now that could be that assistant, if you will.
Absolutely. And when you think about how busy you think about what I just said. I have a morning meeting, I'm writing a radio show, I have a client meeting, I'm going to run 3 miles. If I don't have that organized somewhere, I'm going to sit down at my desk and be like, well, okay, so what am I doing today? So it is very important to keep that organized.
So talking about organization, we're talking about having an office. What's another thing on our checklist, if you will, if we're going to plan on working remotely or from home?
Sure. So keep track of those things that are on your task list. Set daily goals. I do this at the end of every day. I look at what I did that day, what still needs to be done. I use my task manager, which is different than a calendar. It's a task list. Again, this is in Outlook. And I set my goals for each day. If I need to follow up with one of the recruiters on a specific project, I list that as a task and I set a reminder for myself. If I have to return somebody's phone call, I put that on my task manager, set a reminder for myself. So during the day, I get those reminders and I make sure I get those things done. And one more thing, when you're creating your task list, I always make sure I get the things I don't like to do out of the way first. Because especially working from home, it's easy to procrastinate those things because you don't have anybody looking over your shoulder. But those things will snowball on you. So I get them out of the way first thing.
And I like that suggestion. I've been a person who, if there's more on my list to do, I actually get it done. But yet that not favorite activity,
Yes.
not my favorite activity will come first.
Right.
Because of that. So I appreciate you saying that because you can procrastinate a lot that
Well,
way.
and you're actually rewarding yourself then because you're doing the things you like when you're done. So, okay, I got that done. Now I get to do this because I like doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so if we're going to have an office in our home or if we're going to work remotely in our home and our workplace allows that. By the way, we're talking with Lisa Gard, the owner of Specialized Staffing, based here right in Butler. But if we're going to do that, why do you say that we should act like we're going to the office regardless that it might be in our own home?
Sure. So when I talk about acting like you're going to the office, I'm talking about getting up early. Don't get out of bed 5 minutes before you're supposed to start work. I mean, that's easy to do and I've done it, but that's not the way to work. You really need to get up early as if you're going to the office. Spend some quiet time, have your coffee, mentally prepare for the day, get dressed, and go to your desk a little early to review your calendar and your task list for the day. Just kind of like you're going to the office, but you're going to spend a lot less time. And when I say get dressed, I don't mean you have to get dressed up, but
Get out of your PJs?
I'll be honest with you. There are a lot of winter days that I stay in my PJs and fuzzy slippers, but I am much more productive if I take the time to hop in the shower, brush my teeth, make sure that I feel refreshed and ready for the day and get to my desk.
Yeah. And that's something I'll admit, too. I've been in my PJs before working in my office because it's nice and convenient. But when you never know when, just like at the office, when the next appointment is going to come around the corner unexpectedly.
Right.
And so, in a sense, you have to be ready for even stuff that happens at home.
It's funny. I had that happen to me once. There was a businessman here in Butler, and I was talking to him on the phone, and he said, "How quickly can you be at my office?" And I was working from home, so I'm looking at myself in, a pair of jeans and a sweatshirt, and I thought, oh boy, so I had to jump in the shower and put on a suit and, go meet with him. But, quite frankly, sometimes when I'm working, I know I'm going to run at noon. So even if it's a matter of getting out of my PJs and putting on my running clothes, and just, making sure my face is washed, my teeth are brushed, and I'm ready to go, it still makes me feel a lot more prepared to work than if I were still sitting there in my PJs. But I will admit, on snowy, cold mornings, sometimes that is a perk.
That is a perk. When you're talking technology like you did a few minutes ago, wouldn't there or could there be unexpected meetings where you're Skyping or you have to be on that camera and everything from waist up needs to
at least washing your face, brushing your teeth, brushing your hair, making yourself at least a little bit presentable.
Does it make you more productive?
I believe it does.
Yeah.
For me it does. And I would have to think that for a lot of people it does. If you feel the part, then you can play the part. And so if you're sitting there and you still have your bed head and your your teeth aren't brushed, and it just is so much more productive if I'm feeling refreshed.
All right, so if we're going to work from home, our company will just say allows us to do that in the scenario that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. You can work remotely, but we're kind of specifying at home right now. How to be productive when you get to work from home. You say to interact with others regularly.
Yes.
So, and I say, how do you do that? And I know it sounds like a silly question, but when I'm at home and I'm in my office, rarely do I, in a sense, interact. I mean,
Sure.
if the kids need something, they may knock, but still, it's not like I'm on the phone hours
Right.
in a day or in meetings. So.
Right. And it depends on the type of work you're doing as well. But when I say interact with others regularly, I mean your coworkers, if that's something that's part of your job. So I work with a team of 7 people, and we have multiple opportunities during the day to interact. And it's so easy to just send an email. And then, 8 hours goes by, and I think, wow, I haven't talked to anybody today. So pick up the phone or even video chat or Skype, like you said, because that interaction kind of keeps you feeling like you're at work. And another thing about email is it's text and you're reading it. And human nature typically interprets reading text negatively. So if you get an email that says something like, I told you about this yesterday, the email can come across like, comma,
Curse
stupid.
and- yeah, right? Yeah.
But if you're talking to somebody on the phone and they say, oh yeah, I told you about that yesterday, your intonation is, has a lot to do with it, and your facial expression. So that's why I say it's important to interact with others regularly by, hearing their voices, seeing their faces, and it does give you that feeling of being in the office.
And working from home can be a positive, but I would think this is an area where it could turn into a negative very quickly.
Some people hate it.
Yeah.
Some people absolutely hate it. And I know when I first started my business, I worked from home and it was just me. And the first thing I missed was getting up, getting dressed, and seeing other people. So you can still do that working from home. It's just, you utilize technology to do it.
And again, if you're interacting, you can get that sense of working with individuals in your office. But don't you still miss some of what's going on in the office? And yes, you could go out to the front and talk to. Linda's here at our station,
Sure.
so we always gab with Linda for a few minutes, or we gab with each other in the hallway. But there's also a sense of somebody passing you in the hallway and saying, "Hey, we got a meeting at 3." Or, it's
Sure.
those small pieces of information that you miss because you're not in the office.
Sure. And you really don't, as long as your employer has the right communication tools in place, you still may get those reminders. It just might be a ding on your computer screen saying, hey, meeting in 5 minutes, and you've got a phone conference. So you're seeing 3 or 4 other people on your screen, and you're having this interaction, and it's a meeting. So you still have that. You're just having less time wasters, actually.
Absolutely. How to be productive while you're working remotely. Lisa Gard is with us, specialized staffing, of course. And when you talk to us about working at home, you mentioned, to me at least, off the air, about taking breaks.
Right.
Why and what should we do? How long should our breaks be? Because my
Yeah.
break could be 3 hours. I'm not necessarily getting my work done.
Right? That's like me going to pick up the sock and then I see a water bottle and the dishwasher
Right.
needs unloaded. Yeah, I get that. No, but I think it's important for those of us who can be laser focused, and I can at times. It can be 3:00 and I realize I've never gotten out of my chair to, even have lunch. And that's not fair either. So I think it's important. And even if you have to calendar your break, at 10:45, take a 15-minute break. Just walk away and do something. But I think it's very important to walk away periodically like you do at the office. And I think it's important to keep those breaks short. And I think it's very important not to eat lunch at your desk. It's so easy to just get sucked into your home office and become a hermit.
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely.
true.
And I will go to the kitchen, I'll grab my lunch, I'll go right back to my desk and stare at my computer screen. And, by the end of the day, I'm just whooped. So I think it's very important to make sure you leave your desk. Don't eat lunch at your desk. Go somewhere and eat lunch. And also, I think it's important to make sure you have your lunch and your snacks prepared like you would at the office. And I do this at home. I make sure, like the night before, if I made chicken for dinner, I'll cut up a little bit and make chicken salad and have it in the fridge so that at lunchtime, I run 3 miles, I come back and I have that chicken salad. I'll sit at my dining room table, have that, and then go back to work.
So some people like this, some people don't. What do you see the most of? Like, what's more prominent when we're talking about this kind of subject? Do people love working at home, or do they love to be in an office, or is it like a 50-50 split?
Most people love certain things about it and don't like other things about it. Most, if you're like me, I love that I can be super productive working at home, but I also sometimes just miss that interaction. I have to force myself to pick up the phone or to Skype somebody. And I think most people are like that. They'll tell you they love this about it. I love that I don't have to drive an hour to work, but I don't like that, my kids are here and they can knock on the door at any time. And I think it's very important if you're working from home and you have children that are high maintenance, this working from home doesn't mean that you can stay there and babysit your kids. If you get daycare for your kids when you go to the office, get daycare for your kids when you're working from home. And I think that's very important. And I'll be honest with you, even my dog, sometimes I take him and send him to, I send him, there's a little doggy daycare place, and sometimes Otto has to go because if I've got a lot of meetings, he thinks I'm there for him. So he's constantly bothering me, constantly barking. That is a distraction. And, you owe it to your employer if they're giving you the benefit of telecommuting. You are expected to be as productive at home as you are at work. So if you have kids, and I don't mean, if your kids are high maintenance, if you have kids who still need you,
home, and it doesn't matter if they're high maintenance or not. I totally understand what you're saying.
If your kids still need you, then you need to get them to daycare.
Yeah.
It's easy when school's in, but in the summertime
it's difficult.
Right. So if you used to work at the office and you used to take your kids to your mom or you used to have a babysitter come, then do the same thing. You owe it to your employer to be as productive. And you can't tell me you can be as productive if you don't have anybody watching your kids and you're the only one there to give them what they need.
And you may not think as the person working how that anybody can hear what's going on in your house just because you're on a camera on your phone or maybe you're on your cell phone. But I'll tell you this short story because where my office is down in the basement. My dog was like upstairs around the corner outside. He's like, I didn't think anybody could hear my dog. And my dog starts barking and I'm so used to it that I didn't even hear it, The next thing I know is we're on this phone conference and my boss, who is a good jokester, but at the end, just between the two of us, he's like, you might want to let your dog out. And I didn't even hear it because I didn't think anybody could hear my dog except me.
Right. Well, and I think our last show, Otto made a guest appearance barking at the door. Yeah. So no, you're absolutely right. And I don't want to sound callous about, but now there are certain jobs that don't have time restraints. So if you're prepared to be in and out of your office 24/7 and you can do that and get your work done, that's one thing.
And that's one of the great benefits, yeah.
That is one of the great benefits. But for instance, I work with recruiters. We need to be available when our clients are available and when our candidates are available. And typically that's between the hours of like 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. So we don't have the luxury of working 24/7. So during those periods of time when you're calendaring yourself, you might work from 8 to 5. You might work from, 7 to 3:30, whatever. But you need to make sure that you're completely available to work during those times.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Lisa Gard with us, Specialized Staffing. A few more minutes with you today, Lisa. Let me ask you about specialized staffing itself.
Sure.
And because you're always full of great information, I could keep you here for 2 hours. But let's talk about what you're looking for in the way of candidates right now, especially in our area, Butler, Saxonburg, Butler County. I know you reach far beyond just Butler County.
Sure.
But let's talk about our area.
Absolutely. We have several full and part-time office positions in Butler, Zillionople, Saxonburg. Some of them are temporary project work. Some of them are temp to hire, and some of them are direct hire. And they range anywhere from, $10 an hour to probably $15 an hour. So anybody who is interested in general clerical work, we always want to hear from them. We've got full-time positions in human resources that are more paraprofessional positions. We have those positions available right now in Butler and in Saxonburg. We have accounting positions in Zillionople specifically, and then technology-wise, we've several electronic engineer positions available in Butler and Zelienople, and also a structural design engineer position in Zelienople. Those are a couple of the positions we currently have.
You mentioned direct hire. What does that mean?
Direct hire means, so when you go through a staffing firm, attempt to hire is when a client has a permanent opening and they're hiring you through our service, but you're going to go in as a temp for 90 days first. And basically, that's your opportunity to know that you like it, and it's their opportunity to see that you're working out. A direct hire is when a client doesn't do that. They just pay us a flat fee, and you go to work directly for them from day one.
All right. So we could do either. If our, let me say it this way, our resume would change. Let's say I come to you, I'm looking for a job, and I give you my resume, or we work out what's good on the resume. And then all of a sudden I have other things that would be better for another specialized job that maybe you would be able to help me with. How does that work in the way of a resume? Is the resume even involved in this process, or are you talking to those two companies about the two different aspects that I could fulfill for them?
Both. And that's a really good point. So we will help you tweak your resume to highlight those things that are most appropriate for the opportunity for which you're applying. But we also, and this is a huge benefit to you, and it's free, we verbally introduce you to our clients. We don't just send your resume and say, here, let us know if you like this. We pick up the phone, we call the hiring decision maker and say, look, we've interviewed this individual. This is what their references had to say, and this is what they bring to the table, and we're going to send you the resume. We have a very successful track record of getting our candidates an audience with our clients for that reason. We're introducing you. We're not just sending your resume with a gazillion other resumes. And that's the other thing. We don't send a gazillion resumes to our clients. We try to narrow it down to the 3 top candidates so that we can expedite the process and, we can get our candidates in the door.
And I'm looking at the time. I know we only have a couple minutes left. I want to ask your final thoughts about what we were talking about. One more question before we do that, though. How do you get a job these days? And because I know we all live online, and there's so many jobs posted everywhere online, but I do feel like whenever we submit a resume to a potential employer through an online resource, it is amongst a million others because everybody is out there trying to get the same job. Is that the benefit of working with specialized staffing because it is so concentrated?
That's the benefit of working with a recruiter, yes. A professional recruiter will not just send your resume. A professional recruiter will really get to know you and will introduce you to the client by highlighting those things that really qualify you for the job and also, make sense in terms of cultural fit.
All right, so final thoughts about the topic that we were focused on today. Lisa Gard with us with specialized staffing. And I know we primarily talked about how to be productive while working at home, working remotely.
Right.
Your final thoughts on this, is it a good idea? Should we try it? Should we not? And if we're going to, what should we expect?
Right. It's not for everybody, but I think most people can be successful working from home. It truly is a benefit. I offer it to the employees in my company that it makes sense for. Some of my employees are required to have face-to-face contact, so unfortunately that doesn't work. But a lot of jobs now, technology makes it possible to work remotely. So, it can work really well. And I think, one thing to really keep in mind, if you are lucky enough to be able to work from home, it's important to remember to leave work at work. So at the end of your day, if you've calendared your time and if you've put in, enough time to meet your goals, when you leave your desk, shut that computer off, shut that phone off, shut the door, because I know from my own experience, I'll hear an email come over on my computer at 8:00 at night, and I'll go look, and it was a client and they wanted something. So I feel the need to respond right then. They don't expect you to. Of course, if it's an emergency, for sure, but leave work at work then. If you're lucky enough to work from home, when you're not working, leave work at work.
What's your contact information for specialized staffing?
Sure. The phone number is 724-287-8380. Our website is thebestworkwithus.com.
Lisa, thanks so much for coming in.
Always great, Tracy. Thank you.
Love talking to you. Lisa Gard, Specialized Staffing, and you can get a hold of them at any time and go through the process and try to find yourself a new job or work from home. You can try that too. If you would like to listen to this will be our podcast of the day, WISR680.com. Pick programs, Let's Talk, and then specialized staffing. I'm Tracy Morgan with Let's Talk.